What up, everybody? Can you guys hear me okay? Checkity check, 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 check. Let's see here. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me? All right. Video. There we go. Okay. Hey, what's up, Max? How's it going? I like repaso con queso. I feel great except for this cough. Suzanne, yes, hello. How's it going? Lisa is off today, but we are in election coverage for sure. Just read, get the least sleep. Is that real? Interesting. It's almost time to restart. No, let's not restart right now. Let's reschedule this until after the show. Big at time? Okay, 8 p.m. My computer wants to restart right now before we go into the show. That would be fantastic. How's the new set? The new set is pretty great. David Horse, election coverage with Gotti tonight on NBC News Now. Yes, and also Steve Kornacki, Hallie Jackson, Kristen Welker. That's all coming up right after our show, and we've got a full slate for us as well. We've got Julie Sirkin, Shaq. We're going to be talking to Sahil Kapoor. We're going to be talking to Ryan Nobles. We got election coverage coming up. So what are you guys watching for during these primaries that are sweeping a lot of the country? We got Virginia popping off. Michigan is the race to watch. It's going to be an interesting one. A lot of money being spent in that Michigan race. I think it's like $60, $90 million. Pretty wild. Dr. John Torres? Yes. I'm in New York or California. I'm in California right now. Laptops love to request restarts right in the middle of meetings. That's so true. It's Murphy's laptop law. Sounds rough. It's a little rough. Yeah, Max, give us your analysis. Don't think I have expecting, just like hearing the drama. Okay. There's a lot of drama in politics. I might need some more honey, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully not sick. We need you for tonight, David Horse. My voice is a little hoarse, and I'm not gonna lie, I have a crazy cough, but I think I timed my cough suppressant correctly today. So we'll see how it goes. Coming up, continuing coverage of primary night. Yep, all right, here we go. Now you want some honey packets too? Honey is so good. It's so good for you. What is this hair? This gray hair just being like, hey, look at me. I'm a gray hair. Is that better? What should I do? Just cut this thing off? There you go. Nope. It's going to be there the whole show. Sorry, guys. I sound like a New Yorker. Hey, we're going to do election coverage here. Yeah, that's what happens. I went to New York for 3 weeks, came back with an accent and a cough. Yes, J Place. Yeah, what do you guys think? Have you watched? That's character. Aw. Thanks, Devin. Yeah. Ooh, I hear Steve Kornacki. Hold on. I think they've got Kornacki going, look, this is one of the only days where I'm like, hey, leave my stream. Go check out Steve Kornacki's stream. But Steve Kornacki's stream is the best. Let's see here. Let's see if I can pull him up so we can watch them together. last piece of the puzzle. Polls close in 8 minutes and 56 seconds out there. Well, not in all of Michigan, but in parts of Michigan. Interesting. All right. Lemon, ginger, honey, hot water helps soothe and almost helps with the cough. Looking out for you. Oh, thanks so much. I need that. He has been busy all day with the data and the numbers, Boston. I'm glad you're watching. No one does it like him. Massive satellite attacks in the future could be a terrible disruption. Yeah. Yep. That is so true. Add a split screen of it. That would be a good idea. Let's see what we got in this. Oh, we have the control unit, but we should have Kornacki cam right there. That would be cool. Kornacki's stream is huge. It is. It's always so fun to watch. Let's see. What are you doing over here, Lou? You should go check that out. That's the place to be tonight, and then come back tomorrow. I won't be mad, I promise. Even you, SML, if you wanted to, and everybody just wanted to go watch Steve's stream, you should. He is the man with all the answers. I'm just the guy with some questions. Wait, hold on, here we go. What else? Syed is going after Stevens about money, new money to campaign. The same as being endorsed. Max, I hope that's an interesting take. I hope we talk about it today. How long before they come after you? Grinding with Gunner? Are you talking about what show comes after this? Wonder what satellite weapons are really on the Bucks. I don't think we're going to know. What time is it in Los Angeles? It is 4:53 with 17, 18, 19 seconds to go. We've got about 7 minutes, 6 minutes before our showtime. Yeah, interesting. And Max, you know because you're out there, right? I saw an article that Russia had a satellite to make Europe go. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. One of the biggest threats in space right now is any sort of, like a nuclear detonation in the ionosphere could not kill anybody here on Earth. They could basically say, look, no one died, but we took out most of the satellites of the Western world. So in the whole, battle of asymmetric attacks, like that's something that there's a lot of concern about. So it's not just Russia that would have that capability. China would have that capability. North Korea probably is very, very close to having that capability, if not already has it. SML, you're watching the Kornacki cam and us. But you know what? I'm watching the stream, the Kornacki stream and the comment section there, and I'm not seeing SML weigh in. Thanks, Lou. We love the new graphics as well. Updates, election coverage. Yeah, again, today, guys, if our stream just dwindles to nothing, like, please, this is the night to watch Steve Kornacki. And that Kornacki cam is the place with the best news. Fastest access to all this information. And then throughout the entire, oh, there we go. I see it. Sorry, Gotti. SML, very funny. So, yeah, that's going to be the place where the news breaks. And then we are going to continue to dip in and out of primary coverage all night. Big Mike is here.
Good on it?
Can I get on? Yeah, and then can you a couple of tea packs? I've got this crazy cough, so I'm trying to.
Like different ones? Or?
Like these little things that look like mustard.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
What's that, Sean?
Okay, let me turn this up here. Got to listen to Steve.
I think there's probably about 8% of the vote in the primary tonight is going to come from all of these counties up here. So keep that in mind.
Steve Kornacki. He's right here.
The vote is really concentrated. There's also a big concentration right there around Lansing.
Secret screen.
Michigan here, Grand Rapids, Kent County, also next door, Ottawa County, Holland, Michigan. You don't see it, but Kalamazoo is here. You've got Saginaw. You've also got Flint, Genesee County. This is where Livingston County is kind of between. Right here is Livingston County, big, fast growing.
Boston, we're going to cover that tomorrow, for sure. News studios are cold. I think that's why they wear jackets. Hey, Jenny. Great to see you. Thank you so much. We got Adam. That's us. He's talking about joining us.
Yeah, let me remind folks of that. If you've been watching, you know. If you're not, here's how it works. Our friends at News Now are on all night. They've got a special coming on, in fact, at 9
Yeah.
o'clock. So I'm going to be kind of dipping in and out of their coverage.
I am totally an iPad kid.
News in my ear from Adam, from folks saying, hey, News Now, he's going to have you on 2 minutes from now. I will tell you, News Now is going to have me on in 2 minutes. At some point, I will stop talking. I'll do the thing where I look very professional, waiting for the hit to come on. They put me in a box. You'll see it all. We'll put
This is so cool. This is a stream watching another stream.
News Now, and as soon as I finish taping News Now, we'll come right back here. We'll pick up where we left off. I always warn you, you'll probably hear me repeat myself in the News Now stuff, so just bear with me. We'll come right back. But you know what? You'll probably hear me repeat myself a lot because
Can you guys hear some of that? You guys should be watching Steve's stream tonight. It is so good.
2.5.
Oh, thank you, bro.
Want to hit it?
Yes. Well, no, I'll just take it down here. Thank you. Streamception, Lou. That's so true. This is the top news today. Yeah, this is going to be a main storyline that we're talking about tonight. This left-wing, very left part of the Democratic Party kind of coming after the moderate center of the party. Socialist progressive. Interesting. Yep, Steve, fellow Massachusetts native, making us proud. Steve Kornacki. There's only one. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get ready for ours, and then you're gonna see all the streams converge right here. So much to watch for. Okay, I'm gonna turn this down. There we go.
1 minute.
1 minute. We're getting ready for this. Here we go. We got the crew out there in 30 Rock holding it down in the control room. And we got Ryan on the Ronin here. What up, bro? Hi. Big night for Ryan.
Yes.
Primary night. And we're off to the races. Are we walking back and then walking over to?
Yeah. Beat it.
Okay. And then we're tossing to. Got it. And we're tossing to Kornacki from sitting? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, here we go. 20 seconds. Have a great show, everybody. Have a good show, guys.
Seven, 5, 4, 3.
I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight it is primary night, and we are watching elections in these 5 states. We're talking Michigan, Kansas, Washington, plus Virginia and Missouri, where polls are already closed, and we are already starting to see a trickle of results coming in. All of those races may be deciding, who knows, who controls Congress in the fall, but also possibly what the future of the Democratic Party itself might look like going forward. What does it mean to be electable on the left? That is being tested in a very big way tonight, especially in the key battleground state of Michigan, as the Senate race there is shaping up to be the ultimate millennial showdown between establishment moderate Democrats and the party's more aggressively progressive wing. Haley Stevens versus Abdul El Sayed. Michiganders have been breaking down their vote all day, and this is some of what they're saying.
I will vote for Stevens in the primary.
If El Sayed ends up winning tomorrow and becomes the nominee for the Democratic Party, what will be your calculus heading into November? Would you rather give that seat to a Republican, or would you rather El Sayed?
El Sayed.
I mean, would you vote for Haley Stevens if she won tomorrow?
I would have to think about it.
Your vote's not guaranteed just because she's a Democrat.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say so.
Lots to think about. To start the night off, let's get over to the man, the myth, the legend, NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki over at the big board. Steve, we know polls in 2 states just closed, plus a lot of polling locations in Michigan. They are closed down now, too. So what's it looking like?
Yeah, well, right now we're looking at the blank map, but the anticipation, this is the hour where we start to find out, I think, Gotti, in this closely contested Senate race here. I think all eyes are on this one. Abdul El-Sayed, Haley Stevens here. Look, there's a question here about the future and the direction within the Democratic Party. We've seen these candidates from the sort of the far left of the party having surprising success in big primaries this year. This would be the biggest win that faction of the party has posted if Abdul El-Sayed can win this primary tonight. And then general election questions here, too, based on this outcome, because Republicans are saying, you know, we talk about the midterm climate may not be friendly to Republicans. Republicans are saying, well, it may not be, but we can win if Democrats nominate a candidate as far left as El-Sayed. Because remember, this is a state that Donald Trump carried in 2024. The Republican nominee, we actually already know this one. There's no opposition in the primary. It's Mike Rogers, former congressman. He ran for the Senate against Alyssa Slotkin 2 years ago. He nearly won. Now he's back taking a second chance. And Republicans really, you know, have not tried to be shy about this. They are hoping that El-Sayed wins this race tonight. So we are hoping to get a readout here. I think if we get results early, it might come from right here. So, this is Oakland County. This is giant, you know, one right north of Detroit and Wayne County. Also tonight in Michigan, though, the governor's race. There are primaries on both sides. The Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, is the heavy favorite on the Democratic side. She's running against the sheriff of Genesee County, Chris Swanson. Benson, the heavy favorite there. On the Republican side, this one's gotten interesting. John James is a congressman from Macomb County. He's previously run for the Senate twice and lost. He's endorsed by Donald Trump. He's being opposed by businessman Perry Johnson, who has spent a ton of money and really cranked up the negativity against James, really trying to use those 2 losses in previous Senate campaigns against James. So this might be a close contest here. Cox had dropped out of this race, but this Republican gubernatorial contest, obviously a very important one, too. A number of House races, too, that we'll be keeping an eye on in Michigan. But, and we do. Look at this. We have our first results.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, so this is from Kent County, Western Michigan. This is where Grand Rapids is from. Those are the results statewide. They are also the results that we're seeing here in Kent County. So I think one thing we need to figure out right away is, are we looking at early vote? Are we looking at election day vote here? That's going to be key. Adam is taking a look at that. But one thing I can tell you about this county here is this is a place where Syed has to do well. Okay, his support in polling and the support of these progressive insurgent candidates has really been closely linked with age. The younger the electorate, the younger the voters, the better these candidates on the left have been doing. This is a place here, Kent County, Grand Rapids, that is growing very quickly, and it's growing with younger residents. It has a younger median age than the statewide average. So this is a place where progressives have done well in recent elections. Better than they have, you know, in other counties statewide. It's a place where El-Sayed has to do well, and you're seeing that first batch of vote we're getting here. This is probably absentee vote that was cast by mail early, and if it is, and El-Sayed is leading it, that's particularly good news for him, because, again, we expect the vote by mail to be better for Stevens. So that's the first readout that we're getting here, again, from a county where Abdul El-Sayed is expected to and needs to do well. And I'm going to ask my producer right here.
It is partial mail.
It is partially vote by mail. And, Gotti, that's significant because the vote by mail, we've been seeing this, tends to be an older demographic casting it. It tends to be better for candidates like Stevens, who are the establishment candidates. So if we're seeing vote by mail, that the candidate from the left, El-Sayed, is doing well, and that bodes particularly well for him.
Interesting. It's so fascinating to hear you talk about vote by mail versus same-day voting, because, I mean, this is really a race between kind of a very online Twitch-like electorate, and then the very moderate, maybe more like cable news watching electorate. Do you think that we're going to see some of the same trends in terms of urban versus rural voters that we do in like the same-day voters versus the mail-in ballots?
Yeah, it's a wonky conversation, but it's an important one because it really has been the defining feature of a lot of these primaries. It's just been areas where you find younger voters, where you find younger college-educated voters, younger college-educated female voters, single. I'm layering these different demographic categories on top of each other. That's where these left-wing candidacies have really taken root, and where there tends to have been resistance to them is places where the electorate skews older. It just becomes a more sort of moderate electorate, an electorate that's more friendly to a candidate like Stevens. So again, just based on Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids area itself, especially when you're talking about Democratic voters in the Grand Rapids area, you are talking about something that's younger. There are a lot of newcomers coming in there. But again, that's an interesting, the fact that the vote by mail, some of this vote by mail, that we've seen demographically, that tends to be more used by older voters than younger voters. The fact that that is coming up friendly for Syed, it's a very interesting early sign.
And again, a very early sign, 9% in there. But real fast, Steve, remind us of like the purple nature of Michigan here. Like this, take us back to Bernie versus Hillary. What does this state sometimes skew?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a look. These are the last three presidential election results in Michigan. Okay, there's 24, there's 20, there's 2016. And this is 2 wins for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, this is Kent County. I needed to go to the statewide. You think, Gotti, after 6 months I would know how to use this thing?
No, I was impressed that you were just pulling these out of like thin air and the big board. Of course you have all of these things at your fingertips. This is wild to just see you work here.
This is it. Look, Trump has won this 2 out of 3 times. Remember, before Trump came along, no Republican had won Michigan in a presidential election since 1988. Now he's done it 2 out of 3 times. And that really is part of the story here in this Senate primary, where the Stevens campaign, her supporters have been saying to Democrats, look, Al Sayed is too far to the left to win in a state that went for Donald Trump 2 out of 3 times. These left-wing candidacies have done really well in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Denver, New York City, places like this, where the general election is going to be a cakewalk for any Democrat. Not so in Michigan, and this has been the pitch that Stevens has been making to voters. They're saying this is a risk if you nominate Al Sayed in a state like this. And national Democrats, some national Democrats, again, that establishment wing at least, have been saying, well, hey, winning the Senate for Democrats, if the Democrats are losing Michigan this fall, the math kind of becomes prohibitive on that.
Yeah, and not to put the big board to the test again, but we're already starting to see some results in Virginia, right? I'm not sure if you've got those up yet, but that's an interesting state because, I don't know, because AI, data centers seem to be creeping into politics in a very big way there, especially considering that Northern Virginia has the highest concentration of data centers in the country. You're a different kind of big data guy, I know, but what are the numbers they're showing?
Yeah, I will jump there. We did get one little county here. Part of it is Wexford County. This is small, this is rural. The reason I'm flagging this, even with just 10%, is, again, this part of Michigan here, sort of north of US 10, is just filled with largely very small, rural, older electorates, older blue-collar white electorates. The expectation here is that Stevens isn't just winning up here, but for a few places. She is cleaning up here. And at least in this initial batch, in one county up here, they're kind of close to even. So again, these are oh wow, we just got some Wayne County. What did we get in Wayne? Okay, I couldn't tell you much about it. We just got about, Wayne is the biggest in the state. 20% of the votes going to come out. This is like 300 votes. But boy, that's quite a tease to get Wayne. Again, we've got two small little, pieces of clues here that we've gotten from Kent and that we've gotten from Wexford. But again, just those 2 small things we've seen so far are things that Al Sayed would want to see more than Stevens would want to see.
Got it. Any sizable votes coming in from places like Virginia right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You had asked about that, and I went, okay, let's go over to Virginia because we do have a call. I want to show you this in the 2nd District here. 2nd District is around Virginia Beach here. This is the district. is basically dead even in the presidential race. Now, this is interesting. Elaine Luria won this Democratic primary. That's no surprise. Elaine Luria is a former member of Congress. She was defeated for re-election by Republican Jen Kiggins. Kiggins unopposed for renomination in the 2nd District. So this is going to be a rematch. Two candidates who've represented this district in Congress. And again, the backdrop, this is as dead even as they come. This is going to be one of the most closely watched congressional races in America this November. This is going to be, kind of one of those bellwether districts. We're talking about, are Democrats going to have a big night, win the House, win it by a big margin? Are Republicans going to actually have a chance of holding on to the House? This is going to be one of those districts this November. Again, it's right there in the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area, big military presence, Navy presence down there. This is going to be one of those places we are looking to on election night as an early clue this November. So put that one in your heads. Virginia's 2nd District, Kiggins versus Luria.
Got it. Steve Kornacki, we're going to be checking back with you throughout the night here. Can't wait to see you, Kristen, and Hallie as the night goes on. Thank you so much. And just over an hour ago, polls did close out there in Virginia, and we are already getting those results in the key Senate primary and several high-stakes House races, as we just heard from Steve Kornacki. NBC News is projecting that Republican Burt Mizuzwaha will now be facing off Democratic Senator Mark Warner as he seeks a 4th term in the November election. And this was the first time Virginia voters are headed to the polls since the Supreme Court rejected a Democratic congressional redistricting plan that potentially would have reshaped the fight for control of several House seats in battleground districts. Let's bring in NBC full reporter Drew Wilder, who has been following this. Great to see you, Drew. Thanks so much for joining us. What are the key battleground House races that you're watching tonight?
Well, as you heard Kornacki just say, Virginia's 2nd congressional district will be the hottest race in the Commonwealth coming up this November, and certainly one of the most closely watched races from the national picture. But I also want to draw some attention to Virginia's 1st congressional district and District 5. Look, Democrats here in the Commonwealth of Virginia believe that they will flip Districts 1 and 2, and they think they have a pretty good chance at District 5. They view these, despite the ultimately failed or overturned effort to redistrict the Commonwealth, Democrats here still believe they can flip definitely 2 seats blue. They think there might be a 3rd one out there. You had highlighted there on your map Virginia's 7th congressional district. That's been one that's kind of gone back and forth. It's been fairly purple, really up until maybe 8 or so years ago. You see right here, this is the projected winner for Virginia 7th on the Republican side. The nominee there, Doug Olivant. He raised a decent amount of money, but he's going up against an incumbent named Eugene Vindman, who has a ton of energy behind him. He's got a lot of money in the bank. And this appears to be a district that has gotten much more away from the shade of purple and more solidly blue. There you see Eugene Vindman, the incumbent, going into this November. This is a race that could be close, but I was just talking with one of the top political analysts at the University of Virginia last week, and he doesn't think the 7th's going to be that close. We're watching Virginia 1, Virginia 2, and possibly Virginia 5. But look, that could be 3 seats that the Democrats pick up nationally here in a state that tried to redistrict in favor of Democrats, and ultimately the state Supreme Court overturned that. So that could still be a very big night for national Democrats if they can flip 2, even 3 seats, Gabi.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Republican Burt Mizuzwaha? Mizusawa, right? Mizusawa is a name that we're going to have to get used to here now that he's facing off against, he's going to be taking on Warner. So what can you tell us about his background?
Well, look, what I can tell you is that, when I was talking with political analysts over the last couple of weeks, they framed this Republican primary as a battle to earn the honor to get beat by Mark Warner in November. Burt Mizuzwaha raised about a little better than $300,000 in the primary. Now, he's going to get a little bit of money thrown behind him, of course, as we head into the general, but he's going up against a multi-incumbent and former governor in Mark Warner, who right now, as of today, Gabi, already has $25 million in his coffers. If you're the National Republican Party or even the state Republican Party and you're trying to figure out where exactly you're going to place your money, it seems like a stretch to try to get behind a guy like Burt Misuzawa, who sure ran a good primary, won tonight, at least as the projected winner, but even Republicans see that as an absolute Hail Mary of all Hail Marys to unseat somebody like Mark Warner. So you probably anticipate some of that fundraising money to go behind those current incumbents on the congressional side in districts 1, 2, 5 to potentially try to keep those seats rather than trying to unseat somebody who's as strong of a candidate as Mark Warner is.
And, you know, redistricting, I mean, there's been so much drama, so much back and forth from the courts across the country. I do wonder, what's been kind of the fallout or the aftermath as people head to the polls tonight?
Well, it was certainly something that I heard from voters when they were at the polls tonight. I don't know how much of a motivating factor it was. If anything, that entire effort had a roundabout way of maybe driving turnout down this primary, and I'll explain why. First of all, you had the General Assembly here in Virginia, controlled by Democrats. You've got a Democrat in the governor's mansion. They tried to push forward with redistricting that would have vastly favored Democrats. Right now, there are 11 congressional seats in the Commonwealth. Democrats control 6, Republicans have 5. The way the redistricting was shaking up is that Democrats might have been able to control 10 seats to 1 Republican seat. That ultimately went to the voters. The voters approved redistricting, and then it went to the courts, all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court said no. Basically, it was a timing issue of when an election actually starts. There has to be so many days between the language passed in the General Assembly before the vote starts and the votes counted and all these things. And the state Supreme Court said this was rushed. It didn't follow state law. It's invalid. But when Democrats were trying to pass that at the state level, they had to push the primary back to give them more time should redistricting have gone through. Normally, in Virginia, we have our primaries in June. They pushed it back to this August date. So that change alone probably threw some voters off who just simply aren't used to voting here in Virginia in August. And that's certainly what I heard from a couple of voters today who said they woke up and checked their phone and were like, oh, wait, there's a primary today?
Yeah.
Also, I think that tells you that there hasn't been a ton of money spent to this point. There haven't been a lot of ads, at least where I'm at in Northern Virginia. There hasn't been a lot of money spent in this primary. That's certainly going to change as we head into the general, and that will absolutely change, as Steve Kornacki mentioned, when you get down into the Virginia Beach area in those hotly contested congressional races, Gabi.
Drew Wilder, incredible analysis, and yeah, really interesting to see how throw off the routine a little bit, and you see possibly some impact at the polls, even when it comes to timing. Thank you so very much for joining us. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that Michigan Senate primary, easily the marquee race of the night, where voters are choosing between two very different visions for the future of the Democratic Party. We've got establishment-backed Congresswoman Haley Stevens facing off against progressive Abdul El-Sayed, a doctor, a former public health official, pushing for universal health and is a huge critic of U.S. military aid to Israel with support from progressive leaders like Bernie Sanders. While Stevens, a moderate Democrat, she's got the backing of top party leaders and pro-Israel groups, including a super PAC pouring tens of millions of dollars into this very, very expensive race. Let's bring in Julie Sirkin for more on this race. Julie, you're on the ground there. What are you hearing from voters tonight?
Well, it depends who you're asking voters about. The El-Sayed camp is certainly fired up. Young voters, especially when I was in the western part of the state yesterday in college towns, these are the locations that El-Sayed is going after strategically because that's where the progressive energy is. But today I spent all day long talking to voters in Detroit. I talked to a number of them. Older voters. I talked to a number of black voters who do say that they think Stevens is the right one for the job. She worked for President Obama. She had her hand in helping the auto industry here, and she does have experience on the Hill. But all of that doesn't matter for Democrats who want Abdul El-Sayed like Paul. Take a listen to what he told me.
I was a Democrat through and through, and they disappointed me over the past few years. And Abdul El-Sayed was like one of the greatest things that we could have in the past few years.
Who would you vote for if it's her and Mike Rogers?
I would abstain.
Gotti, I followed up by saying, you know, that means that a Republican would win the Senate seat, right? And he said, well, then that's a lesson for Democrats, isn't it? So I think that when you talk to Democratic leaders, you talk to the establishment, so to speak, back in D.C., and they downplay the results of what we saw in New York City, let's say, a couple weeks ago when I covered that primary. We are in a purple state of Michigan in the Midwest, and we're still seeing it happen here. Gotti?
Fascinating. I would abstain. I mean, that's something that will be resonating with a lot of campaign managers, I think. There's also the online nature of this campaign that has been very interesting to watch, right? I know Stevens, she's been called establishment, but the way she has leaned into some of the memes about her, I mean, like it kind of gives savvy millennial more than Howard Dean scream. How are you seeing the race play out versus how it's playing out in the streets when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I think you're referring to that one social media clip. You see it there. She essentially said, I'm going to be sticking it to them. And that got all kinds of reception online in her Midwest accent. I asked her about that yesterday, actually. People have been making fun of her. She has totally leaned into it. And I think it was an accidental strategy. I don't think her team had intended it to go that way. She's been trying to avoid this race becoming a national focus. She even talked about that yesterday. She had all kinds of Michigan Democratic heavyweights behind her. Debbie Stabenow, she, of course, has been endorsed by Gretchen Whitmer. That actually has played a role for at least one voter that I talked to today. So that was fascinating to see. But all in all, El Sayed really has the momentum when it comes to the online, as you mentioned, that younger voting crowd. But this is a strategy that Republicans had to replicate as well and move forward toward as well. You know, when I think about this race and I think about this moment that Democrats are in, Gotti, I think back to 2016, the moment Republicans were in with Donald Trump. A person close to Haley Stevens' campaign months ago told me she would try to just not even reach out to the progressive voters. She didn't think that they were gettable, so to speak. I asked Stevens how she plans on doing that if she wins the primary, and she really didn't have a clear answer for that either.
Interesting. Now, we've got to talk about the money, because this is the most expensive Democratic primary as we speak, with $90 million or so being spent. The lion's share, as I understand it, that's going to back Stevens, right?
It's going to back Stevens, and about $60 million was spent in negative attack ads against Abdul El Sayed. And just watching the local news yesterday and today, blanket in the airwaves, very different than what Drew was saying in Virginia. It's ad upon ad upon ad. And a lot of them are painting El Sayed in a very negative light, saying, for example, that he didn't support Kamala Harris, that he was in the uncommitted crowd. That is still leaving a lot of heartburn for many Michiganders, particularly in the black community. That's the kind of vote that Stevens had tried to tap into. But yes, the elephant in the room, of course it's AIPAC, of course it's Israel. I asked Stevens about this yesterday. She seems to be running quite a gamble here, being a Democrat who does support Israel, does support aid to that country. She sees what it gets her. She had protests at multiple events, security concerns as well. One of her events actually had to be canceled on Friday night. So these people are really angry. They are frustrated, and they won't show up to vote for her in November, many of them, as you heard, if she does end up pulling it out tonight. So while we talk about the electability issue on the El Sayed side of things, when it comes to the Republican that they're going to take on in November, that's one thing. But I do think it's a problem for Stevens as well.
Interesting. Julie Sirkin, thank you so much for all of that. We're going to be checking back with you possibly in a little bit here. Let's bring in Shaq Brewster, who is also in the ground in Detroit, Michigan. Shaquille?
Hi there, Gotti. While there's certainly a lot of anxiety across the state of Michigan as folks wait for those returns and wait to see who ultimately wins this Senate race here in Michigan, I'll tell you, Abdul El Sayed had a lot of confidence last night as he was wrapping up his time on the campaign trail. I got some time with him on the side. I talked to his campaign manager, who said essentially he is coming into this race, he is coming into tonight as the front runner. They feel really good about the energy and enthusiasm that they've been seeing. And the question that I asked for him is, how is he feeling and what is his closing message? What has been his closing message to voters?
I'm just really grateful, and our closing message is the same message we started on. We want to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, pass Medicare for all, because it just shouldn't be this hard to get by in the richest, most powerful country in the world.
That closing message is one that resonated with several voters who I talked to today, including one who said that he's not one who normally comes out and votes in these primary elections. But when I asked what got you out here today, he said simply Abdul. He said he's never been as excited as he is for this candidate and referenced some of those policies that we heard in that closing message. Now, his campaign manager also was very clear that they are up against a lot, and they have been up against a lot, a historic amount of spending, the overwhelming majority of it on the television airwaves, benefiting his opponent, Haley Stevens. That's been an issue that has come up on the debate stage, that has come up at campaign events. But again, his campaign manager and the candidate himself saying that they believe there is enthusiasm for the policies that he's speaking of and for the direction that he wants to move this party, the Democratic Party, in. And we'll get an answer on whether or not that's a winning message in this battleground state later tonight. Gotti?
We sure will. Shaquille Brewster, thank you so much. Let's bring in political reporter at Puck, Abby Livingston. Abby, great to see you. We saw Zoran Mamdani win New York City, but that is a blue city in a very, very blue state. Do you think that we could see a progressive Democrat like El Sayed win a kind of a purplish state like Michigan?
Well, that is the multi-$100 million question, plus it could determine the Senate and whether Donald Trump can get future Supreme Court nominees through. Historically, Michigan has nominated moderate, centrist, pragmatic candidates and senators who've gone on to win, like Alyssa Slotkin last cycle, who won while Vice President Kamala Harris lost the state of Michigan. But the argument El Sayed is making is that he is such a charismatic, strong candidate that he can, excite young people, folks who don't normally come out to vote. And that is an untested theory. And so that it is the central question of the midterms.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that interview that Julie had where somebody said that, if Stevens won, they would abstain. And I'm wondering if the reverse is true. If El Sayed wins, what does that say for the progressive movement? And do you think that mainstream, kind of the centrist or the moderate Democrats would get behind him, or would they abstain?
It's whether they might abstain or Mike Rogers, the de facto Republican nominee, is, a pretty mainstream seeming Republican. He's not terribly MAGA, even if he has Donald Trump's endorsement. And so it's a very, very open question. And that's basically it. Yeah.
And no, that's interesting and something to think about, especially since we have a few months ahead. But we're hearing pundits looking at Michigan, and there is so much talk and so much hype that this is the signal on where the Democratic Party is headed, or whatever tonight decides is the bellwether. Is that overhyped, or is that truly what we're looking at here?
I would say yes and no. On the yes side, we haven't seen in a competitive race like this in a very long time when the establishment anointed candidate has lost. The Chuck Schumer has been very good at getting his candidates through. But I think it's very early to declare victory. We have to see what happens in November. And just one other point, El Sayed has proven to be a very good candidate on the stump, and it appears that it is trending in his way tonight. The next step is he conciliatory, and can his followers fall in line? And this has been such a nasty race that I think it is imperative on both of them. Whoever wins and whoever loses, they have to be a sore winner or sore loser, because there is not much room to give in Michigan.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, and possibly later tonight or into tomorrow. Abby Livingston, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so very much. Now let's go over to NBC's senior national political reporter, Sahil Kapoor in Missouri. So Sahil, talk to us about what's happening right now in Missouri, specifically this House race between Wesley Bell and Cori Bush. So many people watching that tonight. What's at stake here, and what are you hearing from voters?
Well, Gotti, this is a very contentious primary that offers us a rare glimpse into the mood of the Democratic electorate, in part because it's a rematch. These same two candidates squared off in 2024, so it's about as good an apples-to-apples comparison as we're going to get in terms of where the Democratic electorate is heading. Of course, Cori Bush and Wesley Bell, as Democrats here, agree on a lot of things, but the disagreements have been accentuated, and there are two big ones that keep coming up over and over again. The first is U.S. foreign policy to Israel. Cori Bush wants to cut off funding. Wesley Bell recently voted to protect it. The second is their attitudes towards Democratic leadership. Cori Bush kind of sees herself as an activist in addition to a legislator, someone whose role it is to pressure Democratic leadership from the left, whereas Wesley Bell has been much more closely aligned and supportive of leader Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of the party. I've talked to voters who are supporting Wesley Bell because they think he's politically savvy, they think he's effective, they think he knows how to work well with people. Spoken to voters who are supporting Cori Bush because they like her agitating attitude. They want someone who's going to try to shake things up, not just against Republicans, but also toward the Democratic Party leadership. I also spoke to one voter who supported Wesley Bell last time and is now supporting Cori Bush. Take a listen.
I voted for him last time, and so I'm voting for her this time. I think that he's been paid for it, and I think that there are people out there who are using their money and financial influence to buy candidates, and I think that's the wrong direction for our country.
Now, of course, one big question is how many voters like that exist, and that could give us, the real answer in terms of where this is all going. Gotti, I think in the mechanics of how this is all playing out on the ground, there's the message and there is the money. Wesley Bell is absolutely dominating Cori Bush on the airwaves. He and his allies are outspending her 27-1, according to Ad Impact by our calculations. Cori Bush does have a message that seems to reflect where the Democratic electorate and the mood is if you look at other primaries in safe blue areas. But does she have enough resources to get the money out, or is she simply going to be swarmed on the airwaves and end up losing this race?
There's the message, there's the money, and then there's also the map, right? I think we've got a map here. We can pull that up. Missouri was one of the handful of states where there's a new congressional map that's going to be in effect this year. How do you see that factoring in?
So in Missouri, Republicans changed the House map in large part to slice up Kansas City into 3 different districts. The target there was Emanuel Cleaver. It's way on the west side of this state. It does not really impact this district, which is St. Louis area. It's pretty much going to be the same as it was 2 years ago, Gotti.
And finally, what's the latest with the income tax amendment out there? It's very interesting. Would this phase out state income tax like they do in Texas?
Yeah, this is called Amendment 5, one of the more contentious items on the ballot right now. I have some text in front of me. It would amend the Missouri Constitution and require a legislative phase-out of the individual state income tax. There are some caveats here. It's dependent in part on revenue growth. How would you make up for it? The proponents say corporations could pay more taxes. There's also a question of whether they would have to raise sales taxes, property taxes, other forms of revenue, or cut services, which is why you see education advocates, realtors, and a whole bunch of other groups saying, no, this is a bad idea.
Interesting. Sahil Kapoor, thank you so much. And we're going to be dipping in and out of calls and races throughout the show, throughout the night, so stay tuned. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a special coverage with Hallie Jackson, with Kristen Welker, and Steve Kornacki. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Turning now to the devastating wildfires that we've seen in Washington. The largest fire that destroyed parts of Spokane is being treated as arson, and the man accused of starting it was in court today. 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci is facing an arson charge and being held on a $1 million bond. He has not yet entered a plea, but police say they found him just about a half a mile from where that fire started with waterproof matches and a butane lighter. 3 wildfires are tearing through the Spokane area, forcing 67,000 people to evacuate and damaging more than 700 structures. Now let's bring in Morgan Chesky, who's been following this for us from the ground in Spokane, Washington. Morgan, can you walk us through the arrest? Police say he had matches, he had a lighter, but a lot of people have lighters in their pockets. What led investigators to him specifically here?
Yeah, Gotti, authorities gave a lot of credit to people who were kind of witnessing this in real time prior to that fire breaking out. And witnesses told authorities, Gotti, that they saw this individual, 37-year-old Aaron Farnacci, acting nervous as people went by. He appeared kind of crouched near a fence line. And that's what they told investigators, who later tracked him down. Of course, on his person, he did have that butane lighter. He did have those matches. They initially released him, but then it was members of a SWAT team who were able to go to his residence the following day and take him into custody due to details that investigators were able to learn that they're not sharing just yet. We do anticipate learning much more at his arraignment for that arson charge set for this upcoming Thursday. And I should point out that he does have a criminal history here. Back in 2010, he was convicted for manslaughter due to an argument, authorities say, began with his own father over dishes in their Arizona home that later in turn resulted in his father's own death. He was released from prison about 6 years ago, and tonight he's being held on $1 million bond for that single count of first-degree arson. And it's a count of arson, Gotti, that really is responsible, allegedly, for the fire that we are standing in the wreckage of. This, fire that's called the Old Trails Fire decimated this neighborhood. This may be one of the hardest hit areas that we have seen so far. And this is where that one charge of arson stems from. Hard to imagine just how quickly these flames tore through here.
Yeah, and this isn't the only fire that they're battling out there, right? Any word on how the other fires might have started?
That is still under investigation. And unfortunately, Gotti, the fact is that this is this has already burned through this area, but they're not letting people back in out of fears of a potential reignition. And as for those other fires that continue to burn, containment levels, if they're not at zero, they're very close to that because crews are kind of in hilly terrain with ravines that authorities say in some cases can actually funnel wind and push these flames faster. And so the forecast, particularly with the hotter temperatures ahead and the addition of wind, is something that's incredibly concerning here for crews that as of this moment in time are back in these hills where we cannot see them trying to contain these fires still.
Morgan Chesky, thank you. And over on Capitol Hill, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is one step closer to getting that title full-time. His confirmation now out of committee and headed to the floor after cutting the deal that swayed some Republicans who were critics of the president's proposed billion-dollar anti-weaponization fund. Blanche has said in writing that he'll kill that idea, and now we could see a full vote as early as this week. Now let's bring in Kelly O'Donnell to tell us whether this is a done deal or not. Kelly, was this the last hurdle before his confirmation, or could there be any more wrenches thrown into the mix here?
It is not a done deal yet, although getting through the initial committee was much harder than it may have been expected, and it is a significant positive development. However, we already know that Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, who's in a very tight re-election campaign in November, she has come out to say she will not vote for Todd Blanche to become the permanent Attorney General. Republicans have a narrow margin. Mitch McConnell has been out for many weeks due to illness, and so they can only afford to have two Republicans not support him. That means it is a tight situation. Of course, in the Senate, they also have Vice President Vance, who can break a tie. This has all been about questions about, is it appropriate to have the president's former personal lawyer in this role permanently? He's already been Senate confirmed as Deputy Attorney General. Now the key committee has said they are moving forward. That only came about after there were days and delays with negotiations to get Blanche to sign a new order rescinding plans for a fund that could have provided payouts with taxpayer money for people that the administration believes had been wronged by the Biden justice system, including January 6 defendants. The president still says he likes that idea, but for now, Blanche says it is not going forward. There are still some questions about, Is it possible to revive that in some other way? There are also questions about the settlement of the president's lawsuit against the IRS that could allow him to be shielded from some audits, and that, of course, could mean financial gain. So there are questions, there are issues. No Democrats are voting to support him, so it is not an easy path. Gotti?
Very interesting. And Kelly, we all saw at least him post a picture of a document that included written assurances that he was going to be rescinding this. In fact, I think some of the language was, very clear that there was no fund, or there would be no fund. Is there any wiggle room there for a fund to be brought in the future?
There is wiggle room, and the reason for that is the contract that brought this about in the first place was a settlement that included the president's personal lawyers signing off with the Department of Justice. No change has been made to that settlement. It is still carrying the force of law. It could be enforced. What Blanche is saying is that he, as Attorney General, would not administer this fund. He would not go forward with the plans. It would have required him to set up the commission who would decide who would get the funds for that. And so he's saying it's on hold. It appears to still be possible to find some other way to have this happen. So that's not an easy answer or clear answer, but right now that is the best that Blanche says he could do, and it was enough to get 2 key Republicans to support him.
That is the state of affairs of today. Kelly O'Donnell, thank you. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, a drone is seen chasing a Ukrainian man before exploding. What we're learning is Ukraine pins that on Russia. Also, see this QR code? Feel free to scan through. You could chat with us live. Let us know your thoughts all hour long. That'll take you behind the scenes, streaming on YouTube, TikTok, or Twitch.
Two minutes here.
2 minutes. All right, we got 2 minutes. Man, 41 minutes flies when you... Yeah, is he sitting with an overview of everything? Is he focusing on anything in particular? What? I think we start with the overview. Yeah, overview. Yep. Yeah, this is great. The stuff that you or Chris just put in for Nobles is awesome. But yeah, if we can set the scene on like what we're seeing so far, where polls are closed, where any, and do we have any? What are the notable calls right now? Okay.
1 minute.
Okay. Got it. Okay, perfect. And then we're doing headlines coming up, right? Wow, man, time is flying, guys. Cool. Okay. Iran is coming up in the next block. Okay. All right, guys. Lots of stuff shuffling around here. Let's see. What are you guys saying? Max Columbus, interesting. Al Sayed is up by almost 20,000. Again, we've got early vote count comes in, and then we've got day of vote counts. The early vote, Steve was saying, would probably traditionally skew more moderate. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. You should run a sidebar for the election results. That's a very good idea. But we also have a stream. It's called the Kornacki stream. You should watch it. It's amazing. I won't get hurt. Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. Police in Ukraine released a video today showing a Ukrainian vegetable vendor being chased and then eventually struck by a drone. You can kind of see it there. Apparently, he survived that attack but was hurt by shrapnel. Ukrainian officials are blaming Russia for the attack. This comes a day after Russia said Ukraine sent drones to a Russian beach and killed 7 civilians. And in Florida, a small plane made an emergency landing on a highway yesterday, about 30 minutes after takeoff. That pilot reported the plane was losing oil pressure. The pilot and flight student inside were not hurt. The FAA is now investigating. And in Guatemala, more than 600 people were evacuated after the Fuego, a volcano, started erupting. The volcano is part of a Pacific Rim of fire. It is extremely, extremely active. Major highways are closed and classes have been canceled as the area stays on alert for possible additional eruptions. And a Salvadorian man died while in ICE custody over the weekend. Edwin Lopez Cornejo was being held at New Jersey's Delaney Hall detention facility. His cause of death has not been determined, but in a statement, ICE said he, quote, received proper medical care and was seen by medical professionals. Protests have been going on for months over the conditions inside Delaney Hall after another man died while in custody there. And yesterday, at her Chicago concert, Ariana Grande clarified to her fans that her upcoming hiatus was planned.
I heard that my fans were worried that negativity was ruining things for me. But things can ruin. Multiple things can be true at the same time. Boundaries can need to be set. Human beings can need a break sometimes.
All human beings need a break sometimes. This comes after a statement from her rep that Grande would be taking a break from the spotlight amid public concern over her health. And turning now to the arrest of an armed suspect who federal agents say was taking photos and videos on the grounds of Trump National Golf Course out here in Los Angeles. Liz Kreutz has more on that arrest.
Well, hi there. The LA County Sheriff's Department says this happened on Saturday afternoon. The man they say they arrested is 38-year-old Janine John Taylor from Downey, California. And officials say plainclothes federal agents noticed him acting suspiciously at the Trump National Golf Course nearby here in Rancho Palos Verdes, taking photographs and videos and appearing to monitor security planning activities ahead of President Trump's planned visit to the golf course. Police say deputies approached him and determined that he was being investigated for a prior local robbery. So that is when they then detained him. And then they say they found a number of concerning items, both in his car and later at his home, including an illegally modified AR platform rifle, a pistol, body armor, high-capacity magazines, 2 radio signal devices, and multiple notebooks containing concerning statements. Now, it's still unclear what exactly those notes said, and authorities also haven't said if President Trump was mentioned in any of them. But notably, this is actually the second time this year that someone has been arrested on or near this golf course. Back in April, police detained a 36-year-old man who they say was armed with several weapons and wandering around the coastal trails near the property. Now, as for this latest incident, police say the man that they arrested on Saturday is now in custody, facing multiple felony charges, including several that are weapons related. He appeared in court this afternoon. Bail was set at $250,000, and he pled not guilty. Back to you.
Liz Kreutz, thank you. And we'll be right back after the break with more election coverage, so stay tuned.
All right. I think 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Got 2 minutes and we're on time? Okay, cool. 2 minutes, that puts us at, gives us 7 minutes, 8 minutes with Ryan? Okay, cool, cool. All right. No, I think that works. I think so. It's so funny because we're doing election night coverage, and it's the first time in a long time that I remember like not talking about Trump a lot, right? And yet, come November, that shadow is going to be cast over everything again. And so I'm wondering if that's a decent third question or something along those lines. Yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. That's kind of where I'll steer it after we clear a lot of some of this stuff. Okay. 45. And if you guys have questions, we can pop them in. Why don't you use jib camera shots? Oh, you're hurting Ryan's feelings over there. We don't use the jib because we got this guy over here. We don't need a jib. We got a Ronin. Oh, Ryan's coming for you. He's going to get in the comments in just a bit here. Michi, that is a very good point. And yet, that is what is going to be in play when it comes November. SML, SpaceX, that's happening tomorrow. Moon crash, We could talk about it later. Jay Place.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Turning now to the latest with Iran as negotiations continue over the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump is still saying he will back down on strikes against Iran in order for those talks to continue. And Keir Simmons has more.
We may be getting closer to a deal, or closer at least to some semblance of a deal, a small step forward. The Emir of Qatar, where I am here, held a telephone call with President Trump in which they talked about the prospects of trying to inch things forward and effectively use this as a positive stepping stone towards more negotiations. Meanwhile, I spoke to the spokesman for the Qatari Foreign Ministry here in Doha, and he talked about telephone diplomacy, about lots of conversations between different capitals, and that there is a draft being passed around, a draft proposal, a draft solution, if you like, to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Very likely, when that does come, if it comes, it will be deeply controversial. The Iranians still signaling that they are determined to hold on to their supervision, or you could call it control of the strait. There will be the questions over whether fees are going to be charged by the Iranians. There has been a lot of difficult diplomacy to try to get to this stage, but even now, it is nothing like what the US said it wanted, and very different from the state of the Strait of Hormuz before this war started. And then these negotiations can always collapse. We're just days away from when President Trump was threatening a kind of apocalyptic escalation in the war, massive strikes against Iran. We've also seen in recent months and weeks, haven't we, the Iranians fire on ships here, even when a deal was done. So these are very tense moments. Scott Bessent says that the announcement could come in the coming days, coming hours, even. Maybe. We will see.
We sure will. Steve, Keir Simmons, thank you so much. And coming up, continuing coverage of primary night as key states tally up votes and results come in. But first, you got to see this. Sitting in traffic is the absolute worst, but one Wisconsin man took avoiding traffic to new heights. The 69-year-old flew to a local sporting goods store in his helicopter, landing in the parking lot, telling officers it would have taken just too long to drive there. Law enforcement questioned him. They found he was properly licensed. He followed all the required protocols and didn't really put anybody in danger, so he was free to continue on his helicopter shopping trip. We'll be right back.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Sorry, Keir. I got Steve Kornacki on my mind. My bad. My bad. Let's see. Straight ahead. Okay, cool. 2.5. All right, we got a little bit of time here. Can you go one show without mention? Jay Place, unfortunately, the answer to that is no. We got to talk politics in every show because it affects all of us. So, politics is the through line. Let's see. Go to Detroit press conference. What's going on in Detroit? Detroit. Which one are you talking about? SML? I'm looking. I don't see one. Just make the show 1 hour of space and tech. That'll fix it. I would love to make half an hour of the show space and tech. Eventually, one day, it'll be half the show about today and half the show about the future, but Small steps. Local 4 Detroit for their coverage. Max Columbus. I bet they do an amazing job. What's it looking like? I'm not seeing any races called so far. Oh, Boston. I'll tell Ryan that he's doing an A+ job. Hey, Ryan. Boston approves.
Thank you. Thank you for
The entire city of Boston approves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all of them. The polls are not closed totally in Michigan, but in Boston they are, and you are doing a good job.
I mean, I guess I'll take it. I'm definitely a tried and true Los Angeles person.
He's a West Coaster. Sorry, Boston.
Go Lakers.
Go Lakers. Yes. Take a look. Pulling up NBC. If you guys aren't checking out NBC News Decision Desk, you totally should be.
15.
All right, we're going to go to Ryan Nobles. He's going to tell us what the latest is right now.
7, 5, 4, 3.
And we are back now following all the latest from primary elections in 5 different states tonight. So far, we've already gotten results in Virginia and Missouri, but we are awaiting the results from the marquee race of the night, the Senate race in Michigan, that sets up a showdown between moderate and progressive Democrats. Let's bring in NBC's Ryan Nobles, who's been following all of this throughout the day. Ryan, how's it looking, and what do you think the biggest takeaways from the night have been so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we can pull that back up, the Senate race there in Michigan, I think it was 6% reporting, still very, very early on in the night. But Ryan, I want to ask you about something that Steve Kornacki was talking about a little bit earlier. You've got the mail-in vote, right? And then you've got the day of vote, and we don't know which is tabulated first, but usually it's the mail-in vote that's tabulated first. Right now, we're seeing this sizable lead. Should we be reading into that at all? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of eyes on Michigan, a lot of eyes on the future of the Democratic Party tonight. NBC's Ryan Nobles, really appreciate you spending some time with us. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for us tonight. Stick around for special coverage of the midterm primaries straight ahead. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned for Hallie Jackson, for Kristen Welker, for Steve Kornacki. They are all coming up with more analysis next.
Perfect.
Awesome. Great show, everybody.
Great show.
Okay. There we go. Let's see. Interesting. Okay, guys, gotta go. This cough is about ready to spill out of my face, so thank you guys so much for watching. Now switch over to the Kornacki cam and our coverage as primary night continues.